What day is it today?
Why, it's Halloween night, of course.
Well, then I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be out there, drinking pumpkin pie martinis in costume, alright? What am I doing here?
You should already know the answer to that.
Well, I definitely don't, so if you could help me out.
There once existed a Goosebumps fan club. It was active from 1994 all the way to 1998. Goosebumps readers would fill out a little form, mail it in with a couple bucks, and in return, they'd receive Goosebumps newsletters and merchandise in the mail.
Yeah, I know that.
Read the fine print.
If you ever start posting videos online talking about horror-related nostalgia, you must talk about Goosebumps before talking about other scary kid shows. This includes kid shows that weren't scary but have a couple of scary episodes, like Doug and Hey Arnold.
No one is going to die. Doug and his friends are not about to be chainsawed. No, really, right? Tonight,
Son of a...
Yeah, you see why you're here now. This is the part where you say you don't have to do this.
Wait, you don't have to do this. You really don't have to do this. Like, we can talk about Goosebumps.
Go on.
Like, look, it's Halloween. We can talk about Goosebumps episodes that take place on Halloween.
We can try it, but you're staying tied up.
October is my favorite month of the year. It's the ultimate transition month. Temperatures start to cool, leaves begin to fall, baseball moves into the playoffs, and you know the holiday season is right around the corner. The time between Thanksgiving and New Year's is a special one, and it's a beloved one. But oftentimes, November and December bring about a lot of seasonal stress compared to the rest of the year. Priorities shift, people travel for extended periods of time, we worry about gift giving, making sure we see everyone we need to see, being the perfect host. Our daily routines just change. October is really the last chance we get to live our normal day-to-day lives before the end of the year. But Halloween is far from normal. It's the last party that we throw before being completely consumed by the holiday season. Growing up, I couldn't believe that Halloween was a real holiday. I mean, getting to dress up in scary costumes and go door to door asking for candy while staying up past your bedtime, it's crazy. And it was great. As adults, we try to recreate the allure and excitement of the immersion that Halloween brought to us as kids. The whole month, America goes crazy for Halloween. We celebrate it unlike any other holiday, with pumpkin-flavored foods and beverages taking the place of candy, and immersive haunted house experiences and horror-themed theater taking the place of trick-or-treating. There's a reason why we will forever see the nostalgia of Halloween in movies, TV shows, and video games. We love remembering what it was like to be carelessly young, and during the long and cozy nights of October, we can forget about our real problems and just get scared together instead. We can leave our usual personas at home and just venture out into the world pretending to be someone that we aren't. We can become anyone or anything.
Just like Carly Beth.
Exactly. Carly Beth in the very first episode of Goosebumps, the two-part special, The Haunted Mask.
Oh, yeah, that episode's really creepy.
The Haunted Mask premiered on October 27th, 1995, just in time for Halloween. It's widely considered to be the best episode of Goosebumps of all time, due mainly to its impressive acting and effective symbolism while also being genuinely unsettling. I think the fact that this episode premiered on Fox instead of Fox Kids suggests that they were aiming for something that adults could find entertaining as well as kids. It starts out with Carly Beth and her friend Sabrina in a foggy pumpkin patch looking for the perfect Halloween pumpkin. Now, I have fond memories of going to pumpkin patches with my family as a kid. They're usually lighthearted, cheerful places, they sell hot apple cider, maybe there's a hayride, but you don't really go to a pumpkin patch alone at night when you're 13. Or really ever. I mean, there's no one else here. Carly Beth is starting out this episode acting like Tiffany in Men in Black. She's in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I don't trust her. Then neighborhood bullies Chuck and Steve jump out of the fog dressed as pumpkin heads and scare the shit out of Carly Beth. Her and I both think that the only way those boys would have known that she was going to be there is if Sabrina let them in on it. Carly Beth explains that these boys target her in particular and torment her daily, going so far as throwing dead octopuses on her and pretending to be burglars outside of her sleepovers. Now, I don't really think that would fly today, but you could literally do anything you wanted in the 90s. And as she's recounting her troubling experiences, Sabrina laughs at her.
We're prowlers. That wasn't funny.
Yo, what a piece of shit. Are you serious?
Don't be mad, Carly Beth. It's just... You're so scareable, that's all.
I am not. Come on, that's not fair.
Carly Beth, come on.
I might be afraid sometimes, but I mean...
Everyone knows you're afraid of everything.
You need better friends, girl.
She goes home and her mom shows her a Carly Beth head that she made in art class. Why?
Because I love you.
Her mom also made her a duck costume for Halloween because Carly Beth made one comment in passing that maybe, just maybe, it might be fun to be a duck for Halloween. A little presumptuous, but why did she do it?
Because I love you.
Even though her mom might be overstepping some boundaries, she genuinely cares for Carly Beth in a world full of Carly Beth haters. The next day at school, Chuck and Steve put a worm in her sandwich at lunch, and the whole school just laughs and points at her. Good Lord, this is not gonna end well. I mean, you really feel for Carly Beth. She doesn't deserve any of this, and she feels awful and just tears up her duck costume because she doesn't want to be cute anymore. She wants to be scary. So she heads on down to the new novelty store that just opened up in town to buy a scary mask, and the dude that owns it doesn't understand why he has a customer.
What are you doing here? Who are you?
I have money that can be exchanged for goods and services, including the ones that you provide. This exchange is the backbone of a healthy economy.
She then wanders off into the back room where the really scary masks are. The shop owner explains that these ones aren't for sale because they're just too frightening. But that's kind of exactly what she's going for. She wants revenge on Chuck and Steve, so she just grabs one and runs the out of there. For a second, she almost decides to give it back, but the dude doesn't chase after her at all, and instead just locks the door and puts up a close sign. So she's like, alright. Back at home, she has a little ceremony where she says goodbye to her former self and puts on the mask. She's immediately affected by it, and it lowers the pitch of her voice, which she can't explain.
Damn, I probably wouldn't put it back on after that.
She also has a little trouble taking it off the first time, even though she only put it on for a second. So that kind of suggests that this mask is like super quick to take a hold of its victims. The next time she puts it on, it seems to wrap even tighter around her skin, conforming to the shape of her face. She then sneaks out of the house before her mom can see that she's not wearing the duck costume. But not before sticking her old head on a bloody pike. The symbolism here speaks for itself, but for a kid's show, I mean, damn. She starts like grunting at dogs and like tormenting random kids and shoving her Carly Beth head in people's faces trying to make them flinch.
It's going private, she make it clap, I got the strap, 21.
She also starts harassing people that are giving out candy. I mean, she calls this nice lady an old bag, and Sabrina pleads with her to stop, but Carly Beth explains that it's not her, it's the mask.
No, it wasn't me. It was the one-armed man.
She also explains that Halloween is her night. It's the one night she doesn't have to be her pitiful self. She then runs off into the night as Chuck and Steve head off to a foggy graveyard to count their candy, you know, like all kids do.
Wouldn't this be easier at your house?
Carly Beth sneaks up on the boys, and by now her mask is like sweating and shit, and they know she's f***ing lost it.
This is Carly Beth's head.
Oh, man.
The mask makes them apologize to Carly Beth's head for torturing her, but just as they do, the head starts talking and pleading for help. It seems like this is a genuine cry for help from whatever's left of the real Carly Beth, but as far as her original mission goes, it's now accomplished. I mean, the boys are scared, and it's actually unnerving when she starts cackling and howling at the moon afterwards. She then buries the Carly Beth head, and again, the symbolism is, well... She reunites with Sabrina and they try to take the mask off, but by now it's fully attached to her skin, and the eyes that are peering back to her from the mirror are no longer her own.
Pretty freaky
Yeah, it's the scariest part of the episode.
She runs back to the novelty store, and my man's like, yeah, I knew you'd be back. But he's not really sure if there's much Carly Beth can do about her new face, and he's like, look at it!
Look at it! Look at it! Look at it!
He explains that he calls these backroom masks the unloved ones. He actually created them, so that when he wore them himself, he could hide his faults and his self-hatred behind them. They used to look normal, but because his self-loathing manifested from deep within himself, it slowly infected the masks, turning them into what they are today. In fact, his current face is just another mask that is slowly starting to decay just like the others. I think that's actually true. We do have a collection of masks or versions of ourselves that we wear, but over time, without proper care and attention, they start to erode away if we don't address our self-loathing nature. He throws a Hail Mary and says that she might be able to get the mask off if she uses a symbol of love, but she starts freaking out, waking the other masks up. They start chasing after her, encouraging her to love them and join them. And the way that they float and twirl kind of remind me of the ghosts from the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland. She then runs off to her symbol of love and uses it to ward off the floating masks. And just like that, she's able to take off her evil mask. She runs home, shares a nice hug with Mom, and gains a new appreciation for herself and those that truly love her. However, it ends with her brother putting on the mask, suggesting that the horror is far from over. Which is true, because The Haunted Mask Part 2 came out almost exactly a year later, just in time for the next Halloween. It also takes place exactly 1 year later in the story as well. This time, Carly Beth is much more confident and can actually beat Chuck and Steve at their own game. She's still got her old Carly Beth head, but it was smiling at her and shit in part 1, so she probably should have gotten rid of that thing because it's at least partially haunted. She did bury the really evil mask, but she forgot those puppies can fly, so it soars off into the night.
Oh, the pioneers used to ride these babies for miles!
You see, the power of Halloween brought it back to life, so it floats on over to the novelty shop and rebels against its creator, taking him as its new host. Back at school, Steve tells Chuck that he's worried about getting too old to enjoy Halloween and wants to do some wild shit before it's too late, as this old dude walks by, foreshadowing what's to come. The mask then lures the bullies to the shop, where it tricks Steve into taking one of its friends. Afterwards, he runs home to learn that his mom made him a pirate costume.
But I don't want to be a pirate!
So he hides that new mask from her like it's a dirty magazine. He eventually catches up with Chuck, and the mask is up to its old tricks, making him lash out at fellow kids. The main reason that Part 2 just isn't as effective as Part 1 is that Steve just lacks a strong motivation to put on the mask, unlike Carly Beth in her tale of revenge. Instead of granting evil power like Carly Beth's mask, Steve's mask just slowly drains him of his energy, turning him into a weak old man. The original evil mask tells Steve to bring him Carly Beth's head to the graveyard by the stroke of midnight, or else he will stay an old man forever. So Steve sneaks into Carly Beth's house and steals the symbol of love. Carly Beth's sweet, gentle mom being alone in this house with this monster without even knowing it makes it the most tense part of the episode. It feels like it could just turn into a slasher at any second.
Well, I wouldn't want to be in the same house as that thing.
Steve brings the head back to the graveyard, and the evil mask tells him to smash it or else he'll fill him with spiders. So yeah, he definitely smashes that thing. Carly Beth, who finally gets to wear her duck costume this year, along with Sabrina and Chuck, reach the graveyard as well in search of Steve. Steve and the evil mask hold Carly Beth down so that the OG mask can take her as a permanent host once and for all. But at the stroke of midnight, Steve throws himself in front of Carly Beth to protect her, which is itself a symbol of love, breaking the curse and freeing both Steve and the shop owner. Back at Steve's, they throw the two haunted masks into the fire and breathe in the toxic plastic fumes, which is known to the state of California to cause cancer, birth defects, and other reproductive harm. At the very last second, Milo picks up the mask and you're almost certain that he's going to put it on, but he buries it like the good boy that he is. However, it turns out that the fire didn't really affect the mask, so who knows what the f*** is going to happen next Halloween.
My, such scary
Help me!
costume.
Help me! Children! Children, this is not a joke! I'm being tortured by this thing! Children, run! Get help! I'm not kidding! This isn't a joke!
Okay, happy Halloween. Enjoy, children.
Why didn't they help me? Couldn't they hear me?
Everyone already knows about the haunted mask.
Oh yeah, I mean sure. There's also Attack of the Jack-O-Lanterns.
This episode focuses around Drew, who totally gets why Halloween is so great.
It's the best day of the year. It's the one time you get to be someone else.
But she also suffers from CB syndrome, Carly Beth syndrome, and is scared of bullies all the time. The difference here, though, is that Drew has some kick-ass friends, Shane and Shauna. You see, they moved away, but they're back in town visiting, and they're like, yo, just invite them trick-or-treating with you, and we'll get back at them for you. Drew's mom is a little reluctant to let her go out trick-or-treating this year, since there's been some people disappearing lately, but she gives in and lets Drew meet up with her bullies, and they start trick-or-treating. The bullies are totally on to Drew, though, and vow to scare her before she scares them. But since they can fairly amicably go trick-or-treating together, the bullyism is toned down in this episode compared to the Haunted Mask. This is more like pocket bullying, whereas Carly Beth was getting the extreme treatment. While trick-or-treating, two pumpkin heads jump out from behind the bushes. That was how we scared people in the 90s. And while Drew's been waiting for Shane and Shauna to show up, she doesn't think that these two things are her old friends. She doesn't even think they're human. The pumpkin heads invite them to go trick-or-treating in a better neighborhood, and boy do they deliver on that promise. They take the kids to a magical place full of dope Halloween decorations where they give out full candy bars and dump buckets of candy into their bags.
I'ma make it rain, bitch. I'ma make it rain. I'ma make it rain, bitch. I'ma make.
Little do they know they're all anamorphic pumpkins. After filling up pillowcases full of candy, which used to make me so jealous as a kid, they decide it's time to head back, but the pumpkin heads won't let them. They want them to trick-or-treat forever. After chasing the kids, the pumpkins take off their heads and try to put them onto the bullies, causing them to run off for good. And of course, it turns out that they were Drew's old friends, Shane and Shauna.
Hey, it's the one time a year you get to be someone else.
And of course, it turns out that they were aliens, and Drew knew the whole time. And of course, it turns out that they were the ones behind the disappearance of the townsfolk. They've been eating them, which does bump the bullyism in this episode from pocket all the way to classic.
There has to be more Halloween episodes than just those.
Surprisingly, there's really not. Only a couple of the books take place on Halloween. There's a short segment about Halloween and the Headless Ghost, like in the book, but it wasn't included in the TV episode.
Oh, why not?
I don't know. The episode's about these two twins that terrorize the ghost tours at Hill House.
Hill House?
Yeah, they keep asking, like, if
any of these fuckers ever fall out of the ceiling and just have like a big messy
They don't ask that.
No, but they do pull pranks, and they do get kicked out of the Hill House ghost tour, and the book mentions that Halloween was when the two twins learned how to scare people. And the beginning of the episode is edited like a f***ing Michael Bay movie.
Who's there?
There's also Werewolf Skin, which takes place around Halloween in the book, but not on TV.
It's the one where Alex tries to get a picture of a real werewolf for a contest in Chiller magazine, but he only ends up taking pictures of Aunt Marta and Uncle Colin trying to pumpkin spice up their marriage.
Look, it's not my fault there aren't more Halloween-themed Goosebumps episodes. Honestly, they're all atmospheric, like any of them would be perfect for Halloween. They all set the mood.
I guess you're right. Look, you clearly love Goosebumps and Halloween. You're free to go.
So how did you like it?
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah, thank you so much.
Don't forget to tell all your friends about YouTube reviewer immersive Goosebumps torture experience.
Definitely, thanks again.
Oh, and one more thing. Don't forget that every Goosebumps episode ends with a terrible twist.
Well, yeah, sure, but I mean, I think this is the twist, and it's a pretty positive one, so I'm not too worried, but thanks for the reminder.
Wait a minute, this is my house. I live here.
Oh no, Sabrina. There's no line. There's no line here. I'm gonna tell my mom. Those eyes. Those eyes in the mirror. What about them? They're not my eyes, Sabrina. My eyes don't look like that.
There once existed a Goosebumps fan club. It was active from 1994 to 1998. Goosebumps readers would fill out a little form, mail it in with a couple of bucks, and in return they'd receive Goosebumps newsletters and merchandise. If you ever start posting videos online talking about horror-related nostalgia, you must talk about Goosebumps before talking about other scary kid shows. This includes kid shows that weren't scary but have a couple of scary episodes like Doug and Hey Arnold.